Hello, 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 ladies, gentlemen, others. How are you guys doing today on this lovely, whatever day it is? I don't even know anymore. I haven't slept in about 46 hours, and at this point, time has slowly devolved into an abstract concept which my mind can no longer comprehend without excess amounts of caffeine. Anyway, it's your fellow Kuro here, and I've got more PTS stuff to talk to you guys about. I know you like PTS stuff, so do I. But real quick, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you should definitely do that, because it's free, it helps me out a lot, and I know you guys like this kind of content, so why not give yourself more of it, right? Indulge in guilty pleasures. Peer pressure, I know. But anyway, before we hop directly into the video, I would like to preface what you're about to hear with a little bit of a story, okay? This is a story as old as time. It's a story about love and betrayal, okay? A long time ago, I personally fell in love with the Stamina Warden. Everything about it was amazing to me, and it was so fun to play. It had healing, tankiness, burst, literally anything you could ask for, and in my opinion, at the time, it was the perfect solo class. But as time passed, the class slowly devolved. What was once a proud, powerful class capable of 1vxing with relative ease was mangled, okay? It was misshapen and turned into a shell of its former self that was really only good when you started spamming spin to win in the middle of Zergs. Now, this sounds a little dramatic, I know, but it's mostly true. Stamina Warden took hits mostly in its survivability, with repeated nerfs to things like Arctic Blast, and changes to the way some of the other skills in the kit worked, and Warden began having a harder and harder time staying alive on its own merits. Now, well, guys, I'm happy to say that I believe with this current PTS cycle, that problem has been addressed, for the most part, on the Stamina Warden, and I feel like it's in a better spot now than it has been in quite a while. So what changed? What makes Stamden feel so much better? I know I'm taking forever. Fine, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to take a look at the changes. We're going to talk about the changes in two different categories. We're going to start with we're going to start with defensive, and then go to offensive, because I think that makes more sense, because the defensive changes are the ones that I think are the most important. So for a lot of you guys that know Stamden, healing, kind of shit. You know, it's pretty shit. All the old burst heals, they got doo-doo done. Mushrooms used to be okay, not anymore. Arctic Blast, it was cool, not anymore. Well, with the hybridization changes, we got a couple of things that are pretty neat that you guys might want to know. First of all, the mushroom skill, which we're actually going to skill respec here and just set it to its base. This thing got a buff. This got a pretty substantial 12.5% increase to its healing done, which is pretty good, and it does tooltip pretty high. We're going to go ahead and buff up real quick. Let's just get somebody to hit. Boom. Let's look at this. As you can see, we've got a 12k tooltip here. It's going to tooltip the same no matter if you're on the Magicka or Stamina version. There's no real difference. That guy was just a little too far away. So, either one is good. Personally, if you were going to use this on the Stamden, I'd highly recommend you use the Magicka version, because there is something really, really good about having Magicka abilities as your defense, or at least as part of your defense, because it allows you to use more stamina for other things, like dodge rolling and blocking. When you look at any good stamina class, they have a really, really solid Magicka support kit. You look at Stamina Templar, they can use Bubble, they have Cleanse, super strong. You look at Stam DK, they've got Cauterize. Cauterize is awesome. They've got a few more things changed now on the PTS, we'll talk about that later. You look at Sork, they've got Streak, they've got Dark Deal, lots of really good options. Stamden, not a lot of good options right now, but you could use this. The Stamina Morph also exists, but as you can see, they are both extremely expensive. Enchanted Growth has a ridiculously large 4,500 Magicka tooltip for that 12k tooltip of healing there. Soothing Spores, almost 4,000 Magicka for, again, that same 12k. That's a lot. That's going to be a big hit to your sustain for both Stamina and Magicka. And to make matters worse, they don't really have any secondary effects, like at all. This one here, the Stamina version, heals more to people in front of you. Back in the past, at some point, this extra 15% healing used to count on you. That was when this skill was decent. It doesn't do that anymore, so it is no longer decent, mostly because of that. Enchanted Growth, this gives a minor endurance and minor intellect, giving you 15% stamina and magicka recovery. While that is helpful, we are going to be getting the stamina version on at least this build from 2H. You don't have to use that, and there's plenty of other options, but even if you're not using that, this isn't a super important buff. They're really not. They're not that helpful. So yeah, that's why I don't think this is the biggest, most important defensive change. You could make use of this if you're on an extremely high sustained build, but not everyone wants to do that. So what I actually think is the bread and butter here, the best addition, is Living Trellis. Let's talk about this skill. Living Trellis has always been available in the kit, but up until this current PTS cycle, this scaled exclusively off of spell damage, so it was not that useful for the Stam Warden. We're gonna go ahead and buff up, and I'm gonna give a look at the tooltip here. Let's take a peek at the tooltip. Boom, with just my regular buffs up, we've got 3668 health every 1 second when we take damage. Very strong. And then when the vines expire, they heal the target for an additional just about 9k. So, if we come out here, we get stunned, we take a lot of healing, we can spam it a few times to get little mini burst heals. It's quite nice, okay? Let me kill these guys, we'll talk more about it. So, it's pretty decent, but obviously the burst heal doesn't quite compare to the mushrooms from before. And depending on how much health you have, it might not even compare to Arctic. But when you start to weigh in all of the other factors and start comparing this heal to the rest of the class kit, you start to see why I think it's so good. First, take a look at that cost. 2646. That is significantly less than both Arctic and mushrooms. And the amount of healing that you get from the burst heal while being lower is very respectable for the amount of magicka it costs. And when you start doing the math, you are getting back much more HP per point of magicka than you are with either of those other skills. Just for posterity, let's go ahead and pull up Arctic Blast here. Let's get the minor heroism buff or whatever it's called. 7,500. That's a decent tooltip, but again, this thing costs 4,000 magicka. That is grody. So that's why I don't like that. If we compare it directly to Arctic, which also does have a heal over time attached to it of about 1,000 per second there. What am I saying? Where's my brain? You can see that the heal over time from Trellis is actually much more potent. Okay, because this isn't going to scale any further unless you get major mending. The other one will scale with our weapon and spell damage. So again, I keep doing this. I know. I'm sorry, but let's go ahead, look at it buffed up here. 3668 every second. Okay, that's gonna happen once every second for 10 seconds. 36,000 healing over time on the tooltip for one cast of this ability. Does that compare to Arctic Blast? Absolutely. This is giving us about 5,000. About 5,000 total healing there. Because it heals us for about 1,000 every second for 5 seconds on top of the burst heal. So, very big difference there. Arctic Blast does of course have the damage, but the damage isn't super crazy and it's not the most important. So, if we have the ability to stack exclusively into our offensive stats, that's going to be doing us huge favors, because not only is it going to increase the healing of our Living Trellis, it's also going to increase the healing of our Resolving Vigor. It's also going to increase our damage, so we're not having to sacrifice our other heals and our damage just to stack into health to get a nice big Arctic Blast tooltip. Very nice. Then, when you compare it to the mushrooms, again, like I said before, the secondary effects start to become an issue. So let's go ahead and talk about the secondary effects of Trellis. Like I said before, you get close to a 4k tooltip on the healing over time every second with this thing, but not only that, it does also proc your green balance passives, which is a pretty big deal. The first one I would like to talk about is Nature's Gift. With this, we essentially get 500 magicka recovery, which is going to go a long way towards helping our sustain for all of our other magicka abilities, which is very nice. It means we can use Living Trellis more. It costs less. If you run out of magicka on a build using Living Trellis as your main heal, you're going to get back magicka and be able to recast this much faster than you would be any of those other heals, which is pretty damn nice. And it also procs our Major Mending passive when we go down below 40% HP. Now, I know a lot of Stamina Wardens are already using Leeching Vines with Arctic Blast on live, and that'll give them the Major Mending as well, but you're not going to have 100% uptime on this. No matter how good you think you are, it's only got 10 seconds uptime. The odds of you getting bursted, not having Vines up, and then immediately having to go into spamming Arctic Blast, pretty high. You're not going to get your Major Mending that way. You're going to have to, you know, do a lot of noodling back and forth and trying to get the skills up and making sure that you don't die. But you don't need to do that, because with this, it's going to automatically proc. If you start spamming this, it's going to proc. You're going to instantly get your Major Mending, and that's going to be nice. You don't have to think about it. It's just going to work. So, let's go ahead and actually proc Major Mending. Just to take a look at some tooltips again. I don't want to wait for them to start killing me, so I'm actually going to go ahead and grab a Resto Staff and just pop off a heavy attack to get the Major Mending from that. Let's do the Major Mending here. Boom. Okay, I fucked it up. I forgot to get my Brutality. Alright. Forgive me. We gotta do this one more time here. Make sure my buffs are all nice and refreshed. Alright, now look at that. With Major Mending, 4,200 health every second, and a 10k on the burst heal. That is absolutely beefy. Major Mending is super great. We're going to have really good uptime using this skill, since it's going to be our primary utility heal, and it's just going to do us a lot of favors. So basically, that covers everything when it comes to the defense. Mostly, I think Living Trellis is the biggest difference, and I think it's going to be a real big thing. It's going to be pretty much best in slot, I think, for a lot of Stamina Warden builds, so don't be surprised when you start seeing it next patch. Now on to the offensive portion. This is another real simple explanation, which is taken care of by one skill that got hybridized. Deep Fissure. Yes, Deep Fissure. This is the magicka morph of Subterranean Assault. You may be thinking, why? Why bother using this when the Stam morph is good? Well, it's very simple. I'll explain it in 3 different points. 1. It actually has a higher tooltip than the Stamina morph to start off, because it is frost damage. Subterranean Assault, 12,729, 13,756. Because it is frost damage, we do get the additional 5% damage from our passive. Or what is it? Increase your magic at 10%, my bad, 10% extra damage. So it hits quite a bit harder. 2, it also applies Major Breach, which is going to debuff enemies' armor, meaning that you don't have to slot in another skill on your bar to get that effect. And as a little bonus, this used to last for 6 seconds, now it lasts for 10, so it got a little bit of a boof. And third, again, the fact that it's magicka is going to help out our stamina sustain in the long run. Remember that we are actually going to have arguably higher magicka sustain on this build because of things like the passive here, this 500 magicka recovery, essentially passive. That's going to be a massive difference. So we're using less stamina because we're dumping all of our utility into magicka here, and we're saving our stamina for the important stuff mostly. It's almost like a hybrid in a way. But yeah. Primary downside of this skill, however, is the fact that it only pops once, unlike Subterranean, which pops twice. Unfortunately, there is no real counter to that, aside from what I've already mentioned, but if it makes you feel any better, that's how Subterranean Assault used to work too, so it'll just be kind of like going back to the old Stamden roots. But yeah, this is a stronger attack, this hits harder, it adds a debuff so you've got more bar space, and you can sustain it just fine by using, say, Orzorgas and Magma like I am. That's all I'm doing to get my sustain here. And then of course I'm in heavy. There's little things here and there, but super nice. Super nice. We've got a whole bunch more bar space. We've got more damage. It's just beautiful. In conclusion, not only does Stamina Warden now have access to Deep Fissure, which is arguably the better version of the skill, and access to Living Trellis, which is a very solid skill. Both of these are going to help you be able to free up bar space and allow you to fit in all kinds of other flex skills. That means if you previously didn't have room for a dot, you do now. You can go ahead and throw on something like Growing Swarm if you want to, which is also a very solid dot here. Unbuffed 13,000 tooltip. It's AoE, it applies minor vulnerability. It does bleed damage, so it has a chance to apply hemorrhaged or whatever, the thing that reduces people's max HP. So you have that option. If you wanted to try out something like, say, Crystallized Slab or Shield, you couldn't do it before, well now you can, you've got room for it, and this scales up with weapon damage now, so it'll hurt more. Lots and lots of options, definitely tons of different things you could try out, and I can't wait to see what you guys do. I'll be definitely posting a build video the moment, well, maybe not the moment the patch goes up, but when the patch goes up, so you guys look out for that. It's gonna be, you know, several weeks away, but look out for it, because it's gonna happen. And yeah guys, that's all I really wanted to share with you. I hope you guys found it informative, maybe learned a little something, got an idea or some inspiration, who knows. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here though. You guys have a great day. I love you. Kuro out. I could follow you around like talk that you wanted me smaller.